game today. It may not be the most well-attended game. Not easy to get there, but the Flyers and the Kings are going to play a hockey game, and the Flyers have an opportunity to end this losing skid.
Yeah, it's obviously not the optimal situation, I don't think, for anybody to come play a hockey game today, but just the nature of how things work around the National Hockey League and the fact that it's Los Angeles, not exactly around the corner. You got to get it in if they can. So that's what's happening here today. You've got another opportunity here for the Flyers to try to get out of this funk, and we have a couple of other things going on with this contest today. Keith Yandel is going to be honored before the game for his Ironman streak that set a new NHL record earlier this week, and Isaac Ratcliffe is going to make his NHL debut. So those two things kind of surrounding the other thing, which is just get a win for this team. Try to, as they put it yesterday in practice, a little more FU into the game and see if they can't shake this funk.
Yeah, I love that message. I've used that message on my son's midget team too. But the funny thing is they're going to see the debut today of Isaac Ratcliffe. You just said it's kind of like, three different things intersecting all at once today with the debut of Ratcliffe, the ceremony and longevity of Keith Yandel, and then the game where the Flyers can end this 13-game losing skid with a win. But let's start with Ratcliffe because he just did his lap. Solo lap for warm-ups, went out by himself. And I noticed that he went counterclockwise. Usually the player always goes clockwise.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, isn't that weird? Usually the player always kind of goes straight across and then takes that big looping lap.
He took
a hard left.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, maybe that's what we need.
Coatsy's thoughts on a counterclockwise lap.
I'm sure that Coatsy's got a lot of thoughts on a counterclockwise lap.
First of all, what is counterclockwise?
That would be the first detail. But 6'6", listed at 200 pounds. I think he's a little above that now. But he's got some size to him, and he's been down with the Phantoms obviously all year this season. It's his third year in Lehigh Valley, and 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points in 31 games so far for the Phantoms, which is improvements to this point over what he's done in previous seasons. He's had about that many points in his first year in 53 games, and this is a guy that scored 50 goals in the Ontario Hockey League just a few years back. So that's a hard thing to do. So you're hoping that some of that translates to the pro level, and he'll get a chance to get his feet wet.
Yeah, in his final year with the Guelph Storm in the OHL, 65 games played, 50 goals, 32 assists, so 82 points and 105 penalty minutes. And he is a big body. He's got an NHL body. When you're talking about a guy that is 6'6", north of 200 pounds, was taken back in the 2017 NHL entry draft in the second round, 35th overall, 22 years of age. I mean, the Flyers probably looking at this and saying, all right, let's see what you got, kid. We're a little bit sideways this season. Well, we're a lot of bit sideways this season. This is an opportunity. Let's see what you got with the best players in the world. They're
sideways for a number of reasons. First, the elephant in the room is the 13-game winless streak. That obviously is first and foremost. The injuries continue to mount up on this team. I mean, right now, if you don't even include Sam Moran in the injury account, which officially he is included because he does count against the Flyers cap this year. He's not on injured reserve, anything like that. But even without him being counted, right now the Flyers have 8 guys on the injured list. They've got a ton of their centers on the injured list. It's very hard to maneuver and manage without this group that the Flyers are playing without right now. So that does 2 things. Number one, there's nothing to lose by bringing up a guy like Isaac Ratcliffe. Let's see what he can do and see how things go. And at the same time, you're also using the situation that you're in to get a look at some of your guys, get a feel of how things go here at the NHL level. I mean, you talk to any of these guys on this roster, and they will tell you that after you play your first NHL game, it's an eye-opening experience. You get a firsthand feel for what it's like to play at this level, and so you can use that to build off of moving forward. Whether you go back to the American Hockey League or whatever. So, you're hopeful that this is a great opportunity for Ratcliffe to get in there. Maybe he actually makes a splash. One of the best lines the Flyers have had as of late have been a couple of guys that come up from the American Hockey League. So, there's another opportunity here for him to take advantage of.
Yeah, it's going to be, last year we got to see a good amount of players making their NHL debut, whether that was Cam York or Igor Zamula. We've seen Lena Sandin do that this year. Jackson Cates even last year? He might have been last year.
It all runs together.
Yeah, but it's to be the debut of Isaac Ratcliffe tonight, the London, Ontario native, and he'll get his first NHL game. And yeah, I agree with you. I think that's important that when players, whether they're here to stay or they're here to get that first opportunity, it's a lot of information that sends you back if you're not here to stay to go, okay, now I know what it's like. Now I know what it takes to prepare to get there and stay. Or even if you are here to stay, in the first couple games, you kind of go, okay, if I'm going to stay here, I got to do things at an even higher level on and off the ice just to prepare to play against the best players in the world, because every element is so important.
I mean, let's take anything you do in life, right? Whether it's going on a vacation to a place for the first time, or your first day on a job, or I don't even know, like your first time driving a new car or something like that. I mean, people can tell you what it's like, all day long, and you can sit there and watch it all day long, but you don't really get a feel for what it's like until you actually do it. And then, you go back to that vacation spot the second time, and a bunch of things that you're going to do different in your preparation to go there, or what to expect, and so that that thing took me by surprise last time, it's not going to take me by surprise this time. That's what happens when you make your NHL debut. You get not only are you playing in these huge buildings, which unfortunately there's probably not going to be a lot of people in this one today, but you get a feel for playing in the big buildings. You get a feel for playing at NHL speed. That's the big thing, is the speed. And so all that stuff is going to help him prepare to possibly maybe hold down a permanent roster spot in the future.
Absolutely. The Kings, the opponent today, boy, they've recoiled really nicely here. They're having a good year. They're in the third spot right now in the Pacific Division of the Western Conference. How about that? 44 games played, 22-16-6, 50 points, only 2 points back of the Ducks, another team resurging back into the standings and into the conversation. The Kings are 6-3-1 in their last 10, and they got some young players that are helping out. They got some of their veterans that were there for the two cups in 2012 and 2014, mainly Jonathan Quick, Drew Doughty, Andrzej Kopitar, who leads them in scoring, but they're supplementing it also with some young players. They got, they're a team, Brad, that I look at them and the Ducks, and I say, that's the kind of, it wasn't a bottom out, tear it down to the studs and rebuild it type of thing.
Right.
And there's still pieces here. Dustin Brown still here from those years as well. They add Philip Deneau, who brings a great defensive 200-foot game to the equation. But they also got guys like Quentin Byfield, who's in the lineup today. He's played 4 NHL games. That's his first goal as well. And, they're a team moving forward that could recoil and become a contender once again.
And I think that's also an example of what, the Flyers could do here in the next couple of years down the road, as they try to figure out exactly what's gone wrong with this mix and add to it. You don't necessarily have to burn down the house to get back going the other way, as Los Angeles did. And I really feel like the only way that that's effective in any sort of quick turnaround time is when something happens like what's happened to the New York Rangers, who got 2 lottery picks and one of the best players in the world deciding he wasn't going to play anywhere but Manhattan. That helps jumpstart that. If the Flyers burn it down and don't get that, it's going to be a long time. So, something like
the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, exactly. Or you end up being the Ottawa Senators. I mean,
yep.
It's just nuts. But the other thing that's interesting about this Los Angeles team, and again, this just kind of speaks to not that this would affect the Flyers in any way because they're not in the race, but they have a .568 points percentage. That puts them third in the Pacific Division. That would not even qualify them for the playoffs in the East. In fact, they would be pretty far off of a playoff base in the East, even though they played more games than a lot of teams, but they're only 3 points out of the Eastern Conference pace. But still, it is good to see the resurgence of this team and what's going on in Anaheim. They're another team that has been able to, somewhat quickly turn things back around. It wasn't too long ago that Anaheim was a perennial playoff contender and almost reached the conference final or the Stanley Cup final a couple times. So, that wasn't too long ago. And, they've been able now to get themselves to a place where they're pointed northward. So all is not lost, obviously, here in Philadelphia. The first thing the Flyers got to do is hopefully, get out of all this, this crazy thing that's been the last 2 years, whether it was COVID or injuries, just try to shake all this. And like Chuck Fletcher said on Wednesday, they gotta get a win, lower the temperature. They gotta, right now everybody just circling with the pitchforks and the torches and stuff like that. Got to get out of that environment, and that's the best way to do it here with a win today.
Yeah, the interesting common denominator with the Ducks and the Kings, and obviously they're kind of linked because of geography, and they were both really good teams for the same period of time. The Ducks won the Cup back in 2007, and Brian Getzlaf and Corey Perry's rookie year. But they all have good goaltending. They're recoiling. Jonathan Quick is getting it done for the Kings. He's got a .914 save percentage this season, and a record of 11-10-5. And also, you look at the Ducks, they got John Gibson. Well, the Flyers do have that part of the equation in Carter Hart. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll get you ready for Kings Flyers from the Wells Fargo Center. Stay tuned. We're back after this. You're listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. Kings are set to drop the puck coming up today. 1 o'clock, a little matinee hockey in a snow-covered Philadelphia area. Maybe you hope that this takes the guys from LA and all that nice weather out of their comfort level, coming to the rink today and all this snow and go, oh, well, they're all Canadian anyway,
right? Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem, is that they actually, maybe it's like, it's almost like it's a little bit of a touch of home, it's
yeah, guys, they grew up in like Winnipeg where all it did was snow.
Yeah, it's that's weird. There's guys sitting around. I know today in the Flyers locker room watching the TV coverage about how huge of a storm this is, and yada yada. And it's like Thursday where they're from. It just happens all the time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It is the Flyers and the Kings. It'll be Carter Hart versus Jonathan Quick. Brian, one of the things they're going to do today, let's talk about it, is they're going to honor Keith Yandle, and it's a shame because the crowd is going to be so much more sparse than normal because of the weather situation down there today. I'm sure this game was talked about being postponed, but LA not exactly around the corner like you alluded to. I know the Kraken were set to take on the Islanders today, but the state of emergency at Belmont, so that's a different scenario. But Keith Yandle, after setting the record of 965 straight NHL games played, will be honored before this game today.
Yeah, and it's again, it's a big deal. Obviously, it's an NHL record. It's not just a franchise record or anything like that. I mean, this is the longest such situation in the history of the National Hockey League. So that's pretty remarkable that when you really come down and think about it. And it's also a little bit unfortunate too that it happens under the current circumstances because the Flyers obviously aren't where they want to be in terms of wins and losses right now. But it's not really a situation, I guess, where you can just sit there and say, oh, let's wait till we win a game and then we'll honor them. It's got they want to do it timely, and it would have been during the game if it had been a home game, just because it was a road game is where it ended up being. This game was actually, when you looked at the schedule at the start of the season, Yandle was supposed to set the record on January 18th, which would have been a home game against Detroit. That ended up getting changed, and then with other postponements for road games and the like, the date just kept inching backwards and backwards. Unfortunately, it ended up being on the road, but the sentiment will be there. Hopefully, a lot of folks get to see it on TV. It's being an early start. Maybe some of his teammates in other cities who wouldn't be able to see it if it was at night get to see it at some point. Whether they're at the rink getting ready for games or whatever. So there's a little bit of a silver lining to it, but it would be nice if it was a little bit of a different circumstance.
It's interesting. I saw Charlie O'Connor at The Athletic did an article on it and kind of put some of the numbers into perspective and why this streak is so impressive. Because you go, okay, 965 games. Okay, Cal Ripken had 2,632.
Right.
Okay, but one's baseball.
Yeah.
And it was over 17 seasons for Cal Ripken. It's been 14 seasons for Keith Yandle. In the NBA, AC Green holds the record at 1,192 in over 15 seasons. But, I mean, the other one that's really impressive is Brett Favre, 297 games, 19 seasons without missing a start. That's impressive because we know the way that Brett Favre played the game, never shying from contact and, everything that goes along with it. But the thing that's, I think, the most impressive element of this is that couple of things. First of all, when you look at career games played by defensemen, the career number is 272 games played. Keith Yandle is going to play 965 straight games.
Right.
And then when you look at the players that have not missed a game in a single season since the 1949-50 season, at that year, 1,627 of the players in the league did not miss a game. Now, when you look all the way back and you look to the last couple of years, 11 players went through a full season and played all 82. 10 players played all 82. And you got a guy that hasn't missed a game since 2009. To me, that is the cross-section of why it's so impressive.
That, and, again, you alluded to it a little bit, but being a defenseman, I mean, the number of minutes you log as a defenseman,
and type.
Yeah, and the being the offensive type defenseman that he is, but all those years where there was never a shot that he blocked where the injury was bad enough to make him miss a game. And I don't want to say that he was never injured blocking a shot, because he was. He played through a couple of those situations, one of which, he said the time he said was the closest to missing a game was a shot he took off the foot. He couldn't finish the game. I think it was a back-to-back is kind of the impression I got, but I'm not sure of that. But he was up with his training staff until 2 or 3 in the morning, working it, trying to get to a point where they could get it into a boot again. And once he did, he was fine. So that was that's the kind of stuff that he played through. He played through losing 9 teeth. He got hit in the face with a puck. This was just a couple of years ago. Broken jaw and played through all of that. So fortunately, it's not a streak where you have to play and finish every game, because he probably wouldn't have made that. He also had a preseason injury a couple of years ago that, again, was timely enough that he had enough time to heal and be ready for opening night. So there's an element of toughness to it. There's an element of determination, and then there's also the element of luck. And he's had all three that's enabled him to get to this point.
Yeah, and the thing about it too is that old notion of, are you hurt or are you injured?
Yeah,
you can play hurt, can't play injured, and that's part of the equation as well. And he's gotten the job done. Let's take a quick timeout. We'll come back with one more segment here before we hand it over to Tim Saunders and Steve Coates and the Geico countdown to face-off and all the first period action between the Flyers and the Kings. We're back after this. You're listening to Flyers Game Day. Brian Smith, Jason Martinez on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. It's Jason Martinez, Brian Smith. It is the Flyers Game Day show, Flyers and Kings today. Brian, look over that railing there. And as Pat and I were just talking about this. Not long enough? All right, take off. I mean, it looks like there's all things considered, I'm surprised there's as many people in the building as there are right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, that's the case.
There's a lot of things that goes into an event like this that a lot of folks don't necessarily see behind the scenes, but the Wells Fargo Center employs north of 300 people just to help run these events, and most of them are the ushers and the security that you see around helping people at the seating locations. And it would not surprise me if a large number of them are snowed in today. So with everybody downstairs, that means that the staff can concentrate on downstairs, not have to worry about the upstairs, and just let everybody enjoy the game down low today. And that does kind of look like what's happening, unless it's a freak coincidence that nobody's sitting upstairs. I don't think it is.
Yeah, that would be ironic, as Alanis Morissette once said. The funny thing is, my dad, when I was a kid, would have said, "We're going to this game because we'll get right down on the glass," or he'd be like, "Let's brave it out and go." He'd look at it as an adventure, right? And to be able to go, there's not going to be that many people there. It could be special in that there's not that many people there. So let's go. Let's tough it out, and we'll go down there. I think that's cool. And like when they walked out for warm-ups, I saw some little kids trying to high-five the players on the glass there, and I thought that was cool.
And talk about some of the games that you remember, like not championship games, but just random sporting events that you remember in this city. They don't happen under normal circumstances. There's that Phillies game, that the doubleheader, where the second game started at 1 a.m. or something silly like that. There's the Blizzard games. The one that comes to mind that everybody was asking about coming into today was actually also a Kings game in 1993. Kings were here in Philadelphia. Blizzard of 93 is hitting, and two of the windows blew out in the Spectrum on the concourse. And that game actually had to be postponed because the building wasn't safe. But there were only about 3,000 people at that game. Those are the ones that you remember, regardless of the outcome. You remember because of the other circumstances.
Yeah, very unique circumstances. I was in West Palm Beach for that Blizzard of 93 and unfortunately got stuck there for a couple extra days.
Yeah, I'm sure it was horrible.
Yeah. Down there for spring break. I was a college student at the time, and let's just say we had a good time. But it is the Flyers and the Kings today. Maybe it's the joining of these two teams that brings out the best in Mother Nature, but Flyers will take them on today, and they'll honor Keith Yandel before the game. Brad, the debut of Isaac Ratcliffe, the team riding this 13-game winless skid, this opportunity today to put an end to that. But once again, Mike Yeo talked about it, said this team needs to add a little FU to their game. Now, what does adding FU to the game means? It means, hey, under any circumstance, we're not going to collapse. It means, hey, everything we do in this game is, hey, FU, that's our puck. FU, you're in our building. It's an attitude. It's easy to talk about, but you have to live it. And now the team has to live it today.
Yeah, it is. It is really. It's by and large, to me, it's an attitude of, okay, if things don't go our way, we're not going to fold the tents. We're going to get angry about it.
Yeah,
it's going to be, this has gone on long enough, and if the other team scores early, you're going to get angry about it. If the penalty doesn't go your way, you're going to get angry about it. You're going to go out there and try to turn everything that you possibly can from this game, whether it's good or bad. You're going to try to turn it in your favor, and that's really the only way to break out of a funk like this, is to just kind of put your head down and work and try to figure out the best way to go in there and find a way to get more goals than the other team. Is really what it comes down to at this point.
Yeah, and use every element, good, bad, physical, mental, and use it as fuel to find a way to overcome this rescuing, defeat from the jaws of victory. Because that, when you get in one of these streaks, that's kind of what happens is you find a way to lose, even when you probably shouldn't. And the way to get out of it is just sometimes it's almost, we got to just us against the world and everything, even the good things, we're going to accentuate even more and find a way just to get a win. And like Chuck Fletcher said, take the temperature down, let the air out of the balloon and get rid of that storyline because that storyline follows you like a shadow.
Yeah. And it makes it seem like everything is worse than it is, right? The Flyers in the last, 5 games of this streak, with the exception of the Buffalo game, they have not looked all that bad. They have been better in some of these losses than they had been in some of their wins this season. So, it is not a, it's not like they've been getting their doors blown off every single game. The offense, unfortunately, has not been there. It's scored just 1 goal in 3 of the last 6 games. The other 3 games, it's gotten 3 goals, and each time it hasn't quite been enough. One of those was that Buffalo game that just didn't go their way. Before that, 3 consecutive 1-goal losses. One of those was in overtime, but all 3-2. So they have been right there for most of the latter half of this winless streak. It is just a matter of finding that little bit of extra energy to get over the hump and finally put an end to it.
We're in a really interesting part of the schedule because this was slated to be around the Olympic break. And
Correct.
My wife said to me this week, Bryce, she said, what's your schedule this week? And I said, oh, we've got Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
right,
for the Flyers. And then upon further review, I'm looking at the schedule and I go, okay, Saturday, Flyers play the Kings. Okay, Tuesday, the Flyers are in action. They get the Winnipeg Jets. And then Wednesday, they get Detroit. And then I go, well, wait a minute. There's actually 8 days between Tuesday and Wednesday now.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's the break. And I didn't realize it. I just looked at it and said, oh, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, if you recall, the league planned to have both an All-Star and an Olympic break this year.
Yep.
The All-Star break was going to be the first week of the Olympic break. They were going to hold the All-Star game during, I guess, the Olympics, and I'm not sure exactly what. I guess they would have gone straight from Vegas to Beijing. The women's teams are already there, so I guess the men's teams were probably going to go after the All-Star game. So they could, get all that in. Now the change of the schedule, we just have a normal All-Star break. So the Flyers will get that 8-day break than they normally would have been. Winnipeg was supposed to be the last game before the Olympic break. Now it's just the last game before a typical All-Star break, which in this case is going to be 8 days. And if they get out of this in the next 2 games, great. If they don't, maybe that's a reset. Maybe it's just a chance to go home and pretend like the last month never happened, and we come back out on February 9th and like gangbusters. So either way, it should help this team.
Yep, absolutely. And today, an opportunity to put an end to this losing streak. Stay tuned. Tim Saunders, Steve Coates. We'll find out if Coatesy picked up that Isaac Ratcliffe did his solo lap counterclockwise. Stay tuned. Countdown to face off and all the first period action is coming up right after this. You've been listening to Flyers Game Day on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. All right, stream people. We'll see you.